Hey, welcome to Horns Up. I'm Animesh.
And I'm Peter.
And I'm sorry, dear listeners, but this is my sexy Batman voice this week because I have a sore throat and a lot of snot. That's about it. So excuse me, dear listeners.
The 2% of ladies are getting seduced by it, of listeners.
I didn't even know we had lady listeners. I mean, yeah, when I force Karen to listen to an episode, that's besides the point.
Target on point.
Target on point. So, yeah, do excuse me if you hear coughing through the episode. I'll try and edit those out, but hey, whatever. Peter, you're coughing a little bit as well, no?
Yeah, dude. I hate it. It's the worst time of the year for me. Actually, it depends, right? It's a good time for me to listen to all the black metal and doom metal, but I just hate the rains. And it's got progressively worse. So
the changing of the weather in Bombay also now, and then what is becoming an annual tradition, brings with it the time that Peter and I quite look forward to, where it's the middle of the year, like literally almost, right? We are off by a couple of days maybe. And that means it's a perfect time to recap the last 6 months or the first 6 months of the year. Try and compile a list, because we love doing lists, about the music that's on our minds and the best of the year until the year so far. That's a long thing. We'll just call it Moon first half to 2022 or something of that sort. Yeah, that's what we're doing today.
Also, I think this also becomes a great way for me to revisit at the end of the year, because going through
it makes compiling the year-end list so easy, you know? Not so easy, but you get what I mean.
So there are two hacks, right? Earlier I used to use last.fm. Oh man, I miss that. That's when I would actually know how much I listen to, but then half the music I get is not tagged properly and all of that. So that went out of the window. Then Spotify kind of helps it and all of that. But there was a time, I think you'd still do it if I'm not mistaken. I used to actually make an Excel sheet of, okay, these are all like the music albums that came out. This is the Indian ones, because I would think about like making an Indian list. And then all of it was just like too much effort into not much output. So I was just like, I ditched that. So I think Horns Up has kind of replaced that, because at the end of the day, let's be honest, right? We only talk to the artists we really want to talk to and we are interested in. Otherwise, we wouldn't talk to them. So that's kind of replaced and superseded all of this.
Yes, Horns Up has become the outlet for these kind of thoughts from my end. But you're pretty much bang on as to how I collate my lists. It's still old-fashioned note-taking on Excel and notes. Yeah, I've moved from personal blogs to voicing it out and saving it for posterity later, so that our listeners, including the 2% of ladies, can also listen to it in perpetuity whenever they want to be seduced by this lovely Batman voice. Okay, cool. So this time, yet again, I think we're changing how we are presenting this information to you. We've each got around 10 albums, maybe more, maybe less, that we want to talk about. We've split them into two groups as such. One is a group of honorable mentions, and the other one, just to make it fun, is 5-1 ranked list of sorts. So Peter, take it away, man. Your honorable mentions, just list them out.
Okay, so I have to say, right, the only thing distinguishing the honorable mentions to the ranked ones is just the sheer amount I've spent in the last 6 months listening to them, right? Purely that. Easily one album could have come in one of the ranked lists, but okay, disclaimers aside, here we go. In alphabetic order: Astronoid, Radiant Bloom,
Okay,
Cobra Spell, Anthems of the Night. It's so good.
All right.
An EP made it to my list. Normally, I'd never put it. Dusk, The Imaginary Dead. Girish and the Chronicles, Hail to the Heroes. I finally saw this tracks live, and I think, yeah, it really leaves the impression on you. Meshuggah, Immutable. I know you have an opinion on this one. Skullfist, Paid in Full. Uh, Septic Flesh, Modern Primitive. And Vorga, Striving Towards Oblivion. I mean, dude, you're laughing, but the thing is, all these albums, right? I just realized I spent so much time listening to it, and you've already said it, right? Like, we've spent so much time listening to it for the podcast research and stuff like that. But then these are the albums I go back to post that also. So that's been mine. Come
No,
on,
the
your
reason
turn.
I was laughing or giggling was because a lot of those albums are on my lists too. No surprises. And a lot of them have also made it to my top five. So we will be discussing those, some of them in detail. I want to talk specifically about three albums actually or three pieces of music that you called out. The Meshuggah one, the Cobra Spell, and the Astronoid one. I'm going to be straight and honest when I say I didn't enjoy the Astronoid album.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so here's the thing with Astronoid, right? Like, I enjoyed Air. So if I wanted to
Air was
listen,
the first one, right?
yeah. If I
Air was
wanted,
fantastic.
that's what I'm saying.
Like
So if I
it came
wanted
in
to
as
listen to
literally like
Air,
a breath of fresh air.
yeah. So if I wanted to listen to Air Part 2, I'll just go listen to Air.
Exactly.
I like Radiant Bloom because I mean, and I'm going to be slightly nitpicking here, but if there was one minor thing I would change on Air, would be like the whiny-ish vocals. And that's something that on Radiant Bloom they've kind of done better. So I was like, hey, okay, this is definitely there. But I mean, also it's also the contrast, right? If you look at just my list so far,
that one sticks out.
you have to have a Radiant Bloom and an Anthems of the Night to kind of balance out, I don't know, Vorga, Striving Towards Oblivion, and definitely a Meshuggah Immutable, because I know you're going to come to that next. I really enjoyed it, man. I mean, for me, it's Meshuggah exactly how I expected. Yes, I mean, the same argument could be made about Air that I said. If I wanted to listen to old Meshuggah, I'll just listen to old Meshuggah, right? But I don't know, these guys just keep finding some new way to kind of mess with your brain every time. And I found, like, I must say, right, because I've seen them a couple of times live, they're clinical that way.
Of course.
It's not like, what you're listening on the album, then suddenly live it's something else. It's kind of the same. And that, I think, just the fact that they are so on point in there, I don't know, man. Like, I just feel that, like, the drums, just that whole rhythmic thing. Oh man, polyrhythms. Yeah, for me that was there. What is the third album?
That was the Cobra Spell one. I'm surprised it made it that high because it's a fun party listen. But
I really enjoyed that, and I think what also, like, distinguishes this EP to the earlier one is this has that 80s vibe captured. It's just like
absolutely,
and it's everything. It's proper party. Like, I think there's no better way to kind of describe it. You just want to, like, kick back, listen to that, and it's 4 songs, right? So I think
it's quick.
Yeah, so it's not one of those albums that kind of go too much. Like, I think if it was like 8 songs, then there would be some cheese in there and all of that. But this is just perfect. You want to kind of, like, palate cleanse between, I don't know, Dusk again and then Septic Flesh. You have something like that put in. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, coming back to my Meshuggah opinion, I think it was during one of our chats with Ravi that I kind of summed up my reaction, not reaction as such, but my feelings about the new Meshuggah, which I've heard a totality of just 2 times so far, and I didn't want to listen to it anymore because so my point of view about Meshuggah's new one is that, is it a Meshuggah album? No doubt about that. Like, is it still the best form of what this kind of music should be? Yes, probably it is. But if this is Meshuggah's whichever album, and this was my initial reaction to Tool's Fear Inoculum too, right? Like if this much of a body of time has passed since your previous release, instead of serving up another great iteration of the same kind, shouldn't is it is it right for a listener or for a fan to expect more, uh, to push the boundaries yet again? Because as a fan, as a listener, I'm looking towards the best to take what we've heard and push it to another level ahead. And I don't know if Immutable does that in terms of pushing the boundaries ahead. But is
But
it
I will say this. I wonder if your opinion on Immutable will change, like your
like how my opinion about Fear Inoculum has changed? I don't think so. I don't
yeah.
think so, but whatever. We'll address that eventually. Okay. Since you've done more than 5 honorable mentions, I'll include some more albums to my honorable mentions. But I'm doing cheating where I'm going to include a couple of non-metal releases also in that list. All
Yeah.
right. So let's start off with the non-metal releases. The Weeknd's Dawn FM.
That
Fuck
was
yeah, I listened to
good.
The Weeknd. He's fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Steve Vai's Inviolate.
Is
Uh,
that your non-metal?
yeah, that's non-metal.
Oh wow,
It's
this
not
is
metal. It's Steve Vai doing, like, I'm in pure awe of that man just because of that Hydra guitar that he created. Holy fuck. Like, who else other than Steve Vai? Right? Blood Incantations Time Wave Zero, which I think, like, if I were to do this on Last or FM, that would be my most played album of all time.
Hmm.
This year, of all time this year so far. But I don't know, it's not a metal release per se. And this band called Beautiful Distortion, which released a spectacular album called The Gathering. Again, teetering the line between metal and non-metal, but kind of in that post-metal kind of a territory. My honorable mentions are, yes, I've got Girish and the Chronicles with Hail to the Heroes. Fetal Blood Eagle.
Oh, that was fun album. That was a
Yeah,
fun album.
with Indoctrinate. Man Eating Orchid with Hive Mind. Primitive Man with Insurmountable. And this one's the weird one, Sakis Tollis with Among the Fires of Hell.
Actually, dude, that I want to start with that one, right? Because you were the one who linked me onto it. Didn't it just basically sound like old school Rotting Christ? Like it was just like
It is.
yeah.
I mean, it's Rotting Christ from a Dead Poem era.
Yeah.
And the one point about Among the Fires of Hell is this is Sakis's first solo album. And I kid you not, it while listening to it, the spoken word vocal style that he's using here, it makes the songs sound more like a motivational podcast at times. And maybe it's because I was working on a project that had similar vibes.
Oh, I have to go.
You know the one that that I'm talking about, right? Right? But think about it. If Sakis Tolis can do that,
yeah. now I'm gonna re-listen to it in there. But I really liked the few singles I heard. So the entire album's out now.
The entire album came out. He basically released a song per week as such, and it's a collection of, I forget how many songs, but it's a great album to listen to from start to finish, because it's exactly like early Rotting Christ. And if you're a fan of Rotting Christ music, you already know that Sakis is by default the Dave Mustaine of his band, right?
I love that.
If Sakis probably hear this, he'll probably kill us. By even mentioning that, but he gets what we mean.
Yeah,
you all get what we mean. No bad blood.
So I've dropped the ball on the Primitive Man album. I need
Mhm.
to check that out. And a couple of my friends in the States actually got them live. So I'm very
That is the
jealous.
yeah, yeah. So that is the turning point for me as a Primitive Man fan, because I've only been a huge fan of them ever since I caught them live in Singapore. I don't know how many years back. Uh, their their brand of drony super doom is what I call it. Like, because it literally, like, it's like an anvil that, or more than an anvil, it's like that hydraulic pressure machine thingy which obliterates anything in its path.
Yeah.
That's what you feel like coming down on you when you listen to Primitive Man. And Insurmountable has long songs. The pace will definitely take some getting used to, but the more time you spend with it, the more you will appreciate it. So if you haven't checked that one out, do check it out. All the others, they've all been featured on Horns Up. I mean, yeah, right. Girish and the Chronicles, listen to Hail to the Heroes and then come back and listen to episode 171 of Horns Up. Fetal Blood Eagles Indoctrinate, listen to the album, then come back and listen to our breakdown with guitarist Jim Gregory about the track Decompression Disembowelment on episode 170. Man Eating Orchids, Hive Mind. Check out the album, then come back and listen to the band chat with us on episode 180. Um, we wanted to try and get Primitive Man and Sakis on the podcast, but hey, whatever. There's
No,
still a lot of year left.
yeah, and which reminds me, we need to get Jim Gregory back on the podcast because I
Oh
think
yeah,
like he loves the kind of metal nerdery that we do.
yeah,
So yeah, mental
yeah.
note.
Mental note indeed. Alrighty, so those were our honorable mentions. Let's now get down to our ranked lists. How do you want to do this? You want to do this? We
One by
announce the
one.
number and then one by one
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the
yeah.
same time. Yeah,
Of course.
announce them
That,
at the same time. Cool.
that's the fun.
Alrighty, I don't think we'll have a lot of mixtures, but who knows? Let's see. Cool. Our number fives, 3, 2, 1.
Temple of
Septic
Void.
Flesh, Modern
Oh.
Primitive. Ooh, okay.
so,
Yeah,
so
well, Temple of Void is on my list too. No surprises.
yeah,
Septic Flesh was on your honorable mentions.
yeah. So the only reason I'm going to put a disclaimer here, Temple of Void is number 5, is because from the 5, this is one of those albums I've listened to the least in the time that it's kind of come out and all. But yeah, I suspect like this is not going to stay 5 at the end of the day because it's a fucking spectacular album. And like reading the reviews, it just kind of blows my mind that just how polarizing something like music can be, right? Like
Yeah,
while both of us, I'm sure it's higher on your list now that you said, it's just that how everyone else has, like, if I may use the term, right, the Meshuggah-ish expectations that you have. So I loved it. And I think what makes it cool is that the guys are also really fun to chat with. So yeah.
yeah.
But I want to hear your thing on the Septic Flesh album.
Okay, so you know how there are some albums that immediately make you wonder why you weren't giving a band their much deserved listening time, right? Modern Primitive is that album for me because it made me wonder why I wasn't listening to Septic Flesh or giving them their due. Um, I also think it's because it continues in the vein of their like the albums just before Modern Primitive, which is including that symphonic cinematic element into it. It's not cheesy at all. It's not overdone at all. It's heavy as fuck, and that kind of melody like really fits in so beautifully with their music. These tunes kind of became earworms just after a few listens. That's surprising, right? Yeah, they've just continued to remain so. It's becoming one of the weirder albums that I myself am surprised by as to how many times I'm going back to listen to it, but I'm happy with that. And yeah, if you'd like to know more, check out our chat with Satiris on episode 181.
Yeah, and I want to add this, right? Is this album is what I would expect Behemoth to be, right?
Yeah, right.
And Behemoth, I don't know if you heard the new single,
No, I
but
haven't. I know they have got a new album releasing later.
yeah, but I don't know. Like when you hear, like, for me, it's like, how do you put it? And I hate using these motivational kind of thing. But potential, right, of Behemoth, like what Behemoth can do with all the money and all the backing and everything they have. And then they end up doing like this cheesy stuff because, I mean, let's be honest, all of us like have listened to Behemoth over the years. And then when you listen to the last couple of albums, you're just like, why, right?
I have a very stupid theory about the Behemoth fandom in India. I think a lot of it has to do with how well Sahil managed to get all of us to listen to Evangelion. And ever since then, because Sahil hasn't been working with Behemoth on the albums after Evangelion, the Behemoth stock in India has dropped considerably.
Dude, but I mean, I have to say it, and I know we should be talking Septic Flesh, but the comparisons to make is unavoidable here. The Satanist was such a good album.
Yeah,
And
the Satanist was a decent album. Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
agree.
after that, it's just like, I don't know. I want to reserve my judgment, not say anything based on a single, but like I'm gonna have low expectations of the Behemoth album. Okay, enough Behemoth talk. Number
Number four.
four,
Number four. Okay, chalo. 3, 2, 1. Wolfpack,
Kardashev Liminal Right.
Singularity.
Wait, sorry.
Okay, that didn't make any sense.
Go
Peter,
ahead.
what's your number 4?
Kardashev Liminal Right. Which one is yours?
Mine was Wofat, the Singularity.
Oh yeah, that's one
You
of those.
missed that one, didn't you?
Yeah, that didn't make the cut. But I'm telling you, check out, since you liked Septic Flesh. So here's me pitching Kardashev Liminal Right to you. It's a progressive album. They've got like they call themselves international, but well, they're a North American band because they've got like a Canadian drummer. And it's progressive, man. It's like one of those albums you cannot just sit and listen and be like, I'll do work. You got to like immerse yourself and listen to it. And it's out on Metal Blade Records. Really cool guys.
Mm-hmm.
What I really liked about the album also was just how it kind of flows seamlessly, right? It's not like it's a proper album. It's not like singles. Like you can hear the singles and stuff. So it's not progressive for the sake of progressive, like kind of showing off and all of that. There's like an entire story through it and all. And I think that's what really kind of got me to the album, right? You're just following the story in there. But Wofat, I don't think you need to pitch because that was a fucking cool album, dude.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for good stoner music, even though I'm straight edge. The Singularity is a fucking long album, right? It's around an hour and 16 minutes. It's only got 7 songs for what it's worth, but those 7 songs, just like you said about the album you were talking about, the 7 songs take you on this wild ride where the time just flows by. It's meant to be listened to as an album. They weave emotion and music in and out, constantly pushing and pulling, exciting you at times, relaxing you at times. It's a superb album, and the cover art is a cherry on the cake. Check out our chat with Ken Stump on episode 184. That's where we really dig deep into what made the Singularity so awesome. So yeah, that's number 4s. Let's move into number 3s. On the count of 3. Yeah, let's do this once again. 3, 2, 1.
Night.
Skullfist,
Voice of
paid in full.
Wow. I didn't expect this, by the way.
Yeah, you didn't? I mean, the Night album is on my list too. Yeah. No surprises.
So let's talk Skullfist first then.
Why were you surprised that it's so far high up on my list? Come on, you know me well enough by now.
Yeah, but I didn't think you'd like the album that much. That's what I felt.
It's infectious.
Yeah. I know our chat with Zach was very different than what we expected. I mean, I could still hear him say Shantaram in the background. But you know what? Like, I'm got to give credit where it's due, right? That album is fucking catchy as hell. Like,
yeah.
While someone may say it's formulaic or whatever, but dude, that album, like, I would love, like, can you imagine Skullfist and Girish and the Chronicles?
Oh, that would be a fucking super great.
Yeah, that would be funny. And I mean, that would be a fun gig, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, the two other bands I'd add to that would be since we're doing one Indian and one international, add Cryptos and Night. Why not?
Oh, dude.
Fuck, that's
Yeah.
good old celebration. A celebration of good old heavy metal.
I don't think you should be surprised that Night Voices of the Cronian Moon are on my list and so high because,
Yeah, I'm not surprised about it at all.
dude, that album is just so
Slaps,
catchy.
man.
I mean, I just find that sound, the way they've got it, is sublime.
Yeah.
Like, it's not supposed to make sense. But when you listen to it, you just cannot stop listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
Period. It's so much fun. And yeah, I just kept going back to it because I really enjoyed just the whole way it's packaged, right? And I think huge credit to them, just the way they got like the mix and the entire production down, right? Because on paper, if you read about it, you're
Yeah, it
just like,
shouldn't make
it
sense.
shouldn't make sense, right? Like, how does this work? How do you kind of have the vocals? How do you have this? And then they just make it work. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
kudos to them for that.
Yeah, I'll talk about the Night album a bit later. But Skullfist, here's what I really liked about Paid in Full as compared to the previous work. It's definitely more grown up. It's more mature, but it doesn't. No, but it also doubles down on the fun aspect of it in a way, right? And to me, it's a great example of a musician leaving his personality firmly onto a piece of music. This could not have come from any other band who does this kind of a sound because there's only one Zach Schottler and he's responsible for Skullfist.
Yeah. And I mean, he makes no bones about it, right?
Exactly.
It's very clear just the way he kind of goes about it. And he likes to do it in a fun way. Like, I think it's also in a way because I've been following Skullfist for a while, right? And I hate to kind of use this word to describe them, but they're maturing, right?
Yeah.
He kind of talked about it also, how just basically he realized just doing all the vocals and all the kind of party and all the fun stuff and the earlier stuff, now you can see just in the themes and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm glad that he can still re-record and put out Heavier Than Metal because I love that song. It's like so much fun.
Yeah.
So yeah.
To know more about all of that and more, well, just check out episode 186. It's a fucking insane candid.
Yeah. I mean,
I think one of the highlight chats we've ever had on Horns Hub.
I know.
Alrighty. Time for number twos, which if you've been following the podcast so far and doing your diligent homework, you know what my top twos are, but you don't know which one is number two and which one is number one. So yeah, let's do this then. Number two on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Undead.
Temple of Void, Summoning the Slayer.
Okay, now I know.
Let's talk about yours first.
Dude, Undead, man. Fuck, or an album. Like, there was so much hype about this album in there. And one good thing, right, is that it wasn't like an overnight sensation, right? Because these guys have kind of been doing the demos, slowly building it up. And now finally, like, Prosthetic is kind of putting it out. And I love how the album's also titled It's Time to Rise from the Grave. I mean, I know it might be too soon to call this the death metal album of the year, but man, what a fucking album. Like, again, this is just like on brand death metal, right? Like, when you see the cover, you know it's a death metal album. You're not surprised. And then, of course, when I spoke to Alex, the vocalist of Undeath, I had to like ask him, I was like, so how happy were you when Chris Barnes did that whole statement, right? And he's like, trust me, I want to send the album to him. Because after that, they just started selling far more. So yeah, man, I think like if I have to think about like death metal in 2022, you don't want like, the cyborg death metal or that ultra tech grind and stuff like that. You want fun stuff like Undead. So yeah, that's definitely number 2 for me. But again, I want you to talk about Temple of Void.
Why? It should come as no surprise to you. In fact,
Yeah.
it should be more of a surprise that it's on number one, right?
I know, right? I was like, when we spoke to them last week and you were like talking about the album, I'm like, I know what Animation's number one is. So like that's why the one and two surprised me.
Uh,
But before you go, I want a quick reaction because I know what your number one is.
yeah,
I
right.
want a quick
Everyone does.
I want a quick reaction on my number one.
Okay,
And
go for it.
and
Which
I
one is
wish
your
we were
number one?
video.
Hey, wait, sorry. Before we do that, Temple of Void.
Huh.
Check out the fucking album. It's beautiful. It's one of those albums that you can zone out to. At least that's the way I'm perceiving it because I've been using it a lot where I need to be with my thoughts and process them. And also, once you're done checking out the album, to add more context, check out our chat with the band, which was episode 187 on Horns Up. Now, talk about your number one.
Okay, are you ready for it?
Yeah, fuck.
Like
Wait,
I
is
feel
this Author and Punisher?
no. You didn't like that one either.
Is this Zeal and Ardor?
Oh shit! Actually, I wish I spent more time with it. No, are you ready
Okay.
for it?
Then go for it.
Ghost Impera.
Holy fuck, what?
Yeah.
Are you Peter?
I love like see this is why I wish we were a video podcast just because you could see Animation's face.
Is that Peter? Papa Emeritus Cardinal, whatever Copilangio, whatever you're in Ghost, have you like possessed Peter Kotikalapudi, aka Ten Crusher? A Ghost album is your number one album so far of the year.
Dude,
It's not even metal.
See, that was the thing, right? Like we had this entire discussion on whether it's metal or not. But I've listened to this album the most this year. I mean, it is so good. And the thing is, how do I put it? Like if I have to put it in food terms, right? It's like sugar, pure sugar that you know is bad
That I
for you.
accept.
But you want to go back to because you just want that one sip, and then next thing you know, you've eaten like half
Polish
the
the whole thing off, no?
and you're just like, oh boy, what is up? But man, it is so catchy, it is so dark, and I think that's the thing, right? It's like for me, and again, it should come to no surprise to anyone who's heard the album why it charted on the billboards, why it's this. Like for me, so someone tweeted about this recently, and I replied, which will kind of formulate my thoughts better about Ghost, right? So they said, who do you think should be like an ideal metal band, or who's currently an ideal getaway band for metal? And I was like, ideally, it should be Ghost. But unfortunately, the truth is, it's actually Five Finger Death Punch. And I think that's the thing, right? It's a great way to initiate people into metal, get them to understand just like the whole thing. But it's not metal, right? Like that's the thing. It's got the imagery, it's got everything, and it's such a damn catchy album.
No, for what it's worth, Impera is definitely heavier than previous Ghost albums. There's no doubt about that. It didn't. I wasn't too enthused about it, only because again, it falls into the Meshuggah trap for me. It's what I would expect a band like Ghost to do. And clearly this time it's leaning towards heavier stuff. Maybe it also has to do with what the band itself went through, and the fact that they need to double down on their identity a bit more with this album, right? Maybe that's why I was it didn't surprise me that the album was so good, and it didn't surprise me that the album was heavier. And because it didn't really surprise me is why it didn't end up making it to my honorable mentions or my list.
So just a quick thing on Ghost. So there was a picture of them at the end of their tour with all of them unmasked and stuff like that. And Tobias Forge, everyone kind of knows now. It's not. But guess who's one of the guitarists of Ghost?
Fuck, I should know this. I remember reading about it, but I'm forgetting.
Where Sodomizer from Bloodbath. Yeah.
Again, see, it's not yeah, yeah.
And
Why?
that was, I was just like, wow, like from bloodbath to ghost. So if you think about it, in a
Yeah,
way, we've got 6 degrees of separation to ghost, huh? Because we ended up speaking to Dan Swano, who
yeah.
also was in bloodbath. So
Oh well, Tobias Forge, if you're listening,
yeah, that'd be
invitation,
a fun one.
invitation. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one.
So of course, my number one is Night Voices of the Cronian Moon. It's an album that I'd already declared my number one pick for the year in the week of its release, way back in February or March, right? Bay Area, leather and denim, heavy metal that basically takes everything you know about heavy metal and just amps it up with shit tons of attitude and authenticity. I'll go out on a limb and say this: if this album was released in the 1980s, we'd probably be doing one of our all A's or something about
Yeah,
this.
yeah. And that's the thing about a band like them also, right? Because I'm going out on a limb and saying this. I don't think they've hit their prime as yet.
Yeah, yeah. Like the
That's
raw
what excites me.
potential is there. Holy shit, these guys could be the very next big thing. And I
Yeah,
hope they do.
yeah. So I mean, like I watched a couple of live videos because this has been my thing that I do now. I sit and watch live videos. I watched a few videos of Hellfest, and when I watch all these like raw, phone videos and stuff like that, I was just like, man, like why am I not in North America? Why am I sitting here in India? Because everyone's touring. Night was touring, and it's fucking great to watch all of those gigs. Honestly,
Yeah. And to know more about the Night album, Voices of the Cronian Moon, you can check out our chat with the band. That's episode 174. And with that, it's a wrap on our lists so far. But we still have 6 months left and a lot of stuff to look forward to. Today, the day of 1st July, you already have the new albums from Municipal Waste out. You have a new album from Conjurer out. You have those are the big releases. And well, besides that, there's a Wormrot album coming out. The Psychroptic album, which will officially release. There's a Ken Mode album that's going to be released.
fuck yeah, finally.
Carl Sanders is coming out with another solo effort.
Yeah,
Russian Circus is coming out. Spirit Adrift are releasing a compilation album.
yeah.
I mean, what the fuck? Long Distance Calling. They have a new album coming out. Machine Head have a new album coming out. Whatever. Psy have a new album which will be released soon. Ozzy Osbourne's like still alive and doing another album.
Yeah, he put out that.
Paluha, Behemoth, Lamb of God, Devin Townsend. And I don't know, at this point in time, I think the biggest album of the year seems to be the new Megadeth.
Yeah. What did you think of the single?
I haven't heard it yet.
Okay. Because so just to add another band in this mix is a band called Wake from Canada.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, right? Like with just what we do, we have access to all this music, but it doesn't fall in the whole thing. So yeah, there's a reason why we haven't been talking about it as yet.
Well, okay, what did you make of the Megadeth single?
Oh man.
Spoil it for me. It's
Spoil
okay.
it?
Megadeth.
Yeah. Let's just say Dave Mustaine has a point to prove. So he's trying to do that. But like,
when does he not have a point to prove?
I mean, see, that's the thing, right? Like I think when you look at it, and we've discussed this, like the whole reason why Dave Mustaine does what Dave Mustaine does is because Metallica exists, right? Period. But I must say, and again, I'm going out on a limb and like call me out or whatever, but you know how Ozzy's voice is now on the new single? I'm sure you heard the Ozzy single.
No,
right?
I haven't.
So basically, Ozzy auto-tunes, right?
Yeah.
So that's how he kind of sounds remotely. What Dave Mustaine doesn't want to auto-tune. So he's falling in that Ozzy thing.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm just like, okay, man, like we get it. Like if it wasn't your band, then definitely there would be another singer. But for me, his voice has always been the weak link. And I think And I think, I don't know why,
How
like,
are the riffs?
oh, fuck. Like that's the thing. Like, again, these are all my hot takes I'm leaving for the end of the episode. But listen, there are better riffs than there's been on an entire Metallica album.
Fuck yes. That's honestly what I was expecting, and I'm glad you're saying that, because you don't like calling a spade a spade. I have more rose tinted glasses for Megadeth than you do.
Yeah. No, dude. Fucking I'm excited to see just what, and it's been the hype, right? There's so much talk. I think which by the way, which means when the album's out, we should definitely do a special episode to it. It's
Yeah.
just that there's so much around this album, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've been talking about it for a while. Then the whole thing with uh, Dave Ellefson,
Yeah.
then the who's the new bassist, him re-recording. There's just so much around this album in there, and all of this without even one single being released. Huh? Then the single releases.
Alrighty, plenty of stuff to look forward to. If you have your lists ready, why don't you share them with us? As always, you can do that on hornsupod.com or on Twitter at hornsupod. I'm at Asmoani on Twitter.
I'm at Trend Crusher.
And this was Horns Up.
Horns up, guys.